Alexander the Great. The name alone conjures images of epic battles, vast empires, and a legacy that has endured for millennia. But who was this man who became a legend? Let's dive into the life of Alexander, a Macedonian man-child on a mission. Dude was born into royalty, the son of King Philip II of Macedon and Queen Olympias. From the get-go, he was destined for greatness, surrounded by the trappings of power and privilege. But being born into royalty wasn't just about luxury, it came with its own set of expectations and pressures. Got tutored by Aristotle himself, yeah, that Aristotle. Talk about pressure. Imagine being a teenager and having one of the greatest philosophers of all time as your personal tutor. Aristotle taught him not just philosophy but also science, medicine, and literature. This education would shape Alexander's thinking and strategies for the rest of his life. By 20, he's king of Macedon. His father, King Philip II, was assassinated, and Alexander ascended to the throne. It was a turbulent time, but Alexander was ready. He had been groomed for this role his entire life. Dad dies, no biggie, just gotta conquer the known world. With his father's death, Alexander inherited not just a kingdom but also his father's ambitions. He quickly set out to expand his empire, starting with the Greek city-states and then moving on to the vast Persian Empire. But Alex wasn't just some entitled prince. He was a warrior, a leader who fought alongside his men. He trained rigorously, honing his skills in combat and strategy. His soldiers respected him not just because he was their king, but because he was one of them. He had ambition, drive, the whole 9 yards. Alexander wasn't content with just ruling Macedon. He had a vision of a vast empire that spanned continents. His ambition was matched by his relentless drive to achieve his goals no matter the obstacles. Plus, he had a knack for strategy. Alexander was a military genius. He studied the tactics of past generals and innovated on the battlefield. His strategies were often unorthodox, catching his enemies off guard and leading to decisive victories. He understood the art of war not just in terms of tactics but also in terms of psychology. He knew how to demoralize his enemies and inspire his own troops. His ability to read the battlefield and make quick decisions was unparalleled. Knew how to inspire his troops. Basically, the guy was a born leader. His charisma and leadership skills were legendary. He led from the front, sharing in the hardships and dangers of his men. This earned him their unwavering loyalty and respect. Now, some folks might call him power-hungry. And sure, he had an insatiable desire for conquest. But it wasn't just about power for power's sake. Alexander had a grand vision for the world. And sure, maybe he liked the idea of his face on coins. Who wouldn't? But there was more to it than that. He saw himself as a unifier, a bringer of civilization to the barbarian lands. But there was more to it than that. Alexander had a vision, man. He dreamed of a world where different cultures could coexist and learn from each other. He wanted to create a fusion of East and West, blending the best of both worlds. Alexander had a vision, man. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was a visionary. He established cities, spread Greek culture, and encouraged marriages between his soldiers and local women to foster unity. He wanted to create a world where cultures mixed, where East met West. His empire was a melting pot of different peoples and traditions. This cultural exchange enriched the regions he conquered and left a lasting impact on history. He wasn't just conquering lands, he was conquering hearts and minds. He respected the customs and traditions of the people he conquered, often adopting elements of their culture into his own. Okay, maybe not everyone's hearts and minds, but enough to leave a legacy that lasted way beyond his short but impactful life. His empire may have fragmented after his death, but the cultural and intellectual legacy he left behind endured for centuries. Next up, we'll break down some of his greatest hits, militarily speaking, of course. From the Battle of Issus to the Siege of Tyre, we'll explore the key moments that defined Alexander's military genius and solidified his place in history. Let's talk strategy. Throughout history, the greatest leaders have always been those who could think several steps ahead, outmaneuvering their opponents not just with sheer force, but with cunning and intellect. Alexander wasn't all about brute force. He was a master tactician, always looking for ways to outsmart his enemies. His strategies were often unconventional, catching his foes off guard and leading to decisive victories. Sure, he had a powerful army, but his real weapon? His brain. Alexander's ability to think outside the box and adapt to changing circumstances made him a formidable opponent on the battlefield. Take the Gordian knot legend. This story perfectly illustrates Alexander's innovative approach to problem solving. This tangled mess was supposed to be unsolvable. Many had tried and failed to untie it, believing it required a delicate and intricate solution. "Untie it," legend said, "and you'll rule Asia." It was a challenge that had stumped many, but Alexander saw it differently. Alex rolls up, takes one look, and slices the knot in half with his sword. Problem solved. He didn't waste time trying to untangle it, he simply cut through the problem, literally and figuratively. The point? Sometimes you gotta break the rules to win. Alexander understood that conventional thinking wouldn't always lead to victory. He wasn't afraid to take bold actions that others might consider reckless. Then there's the Battle of Gaugamela. This was one of Alexander's most famous battles, showcasing his strategic genius. Facing the mighty Persian army led by Darius III, Alexander knew he was outmatched. The Persians had superior numbers and resources. So, what does he do? Instead of meeting them head-on in a traditional battle, he devised a plan to turn their strengths into weaknesses. He uses the Persians' own tactics against them, feigning a retreat before launching a devastating counterattack. This maneuver caught the Persians off guard, leading to their downfall. Boom, Persia crumbles, and Alexander becomes the king of the world, well, at least the part he knew about. His ability to adapt, innovate, and outthink his enemies cemented his legacy as one of history's greatest military minds. Alexander understood that to conquer a people, you gotta understand them. When he conquered Persia, he didn't just impose Macedonian culture, he adopted Persian customs, even rocking their clothes. Talk about cultural appropriation, right? But in a good way, maybe? He knew that respecting local customs wasn't just polite, it was smart politics. It made the conquered folks a little less resentful, a little more open to this whole being ruled by a Macedonian thing. Plus, it probably made for some interesting fashion choices. Alexander knew you're only as good as your crew. He surrounded himself with loyal, talented individuals from all walks of life. He promoted based on merit, not social status. That's right, your dad being a duke meant nothing in Alexander's army. You had to earn your stripes. This created a sense of camaraderie and loyalty within his ranks. His soldiers weren't just fighting for their king, they were fighting alongside their friend, their leader, their bro. It was like a fraternity, but with less toga wearing and more conquering. Section 5. Leaving a mark on the world, literally, the Hellenistic hangover. Alexander's impact wasn't just about battles and borders. He left a lasting cultural legacy, the Hellenistic period. Imagine a world where Greek culture, art, and philosophy were all the rage, from Egypt to India. That's the Hellenistic world. It was like a giant cultural exchange program, except nobody signed up for it. But, hey, it led to some pretty amazing art, literature, and philosophy. So, thanks, Alex. Ever heard of Bucephalus? No, not a Greek dish. We're talking about Alexander's horse, a wild stallion nobody could tame. Until Alex, that is. He saw the horse was afraid of its own shadow, so he turned him towards the sun. Problem solved. This story's more than just a horse whisperer moment. It shows Alexander's courage and his ability to think outside the box. Whether he was facing down a charging war elephant or a stubborn horse, he didn't back down. He faced his fears head-on, and that made all the difference. Alexander's conquests weren't just about land, they were about ideas. Everywhere he went, Greek culture followed. Language, art, philosophy, you name it. He built cities, established libraries, basically created a network of Greek culture throughout his empire. Some might call it cultural imperialism. But hey, he spread the love, and by love we mean Greek tragedies and democracy, which, let's be honest, is a mixed bag. Alexander's reign was short. He died at the ripe old age of 32. That's what, like 1 year in celebrity years? But in those few years he changed the world. He showed us that leadership is about more than just power. It's about vision, strategy, and connecting with people. He was a flawed individual, sure, but his story still resonates today, inspiring us to dream big, take risks, and maybe conquer the world, or at least our own personal Gordian knots. So what can we learn from this ancient bro? Alexander the Great, one of history's most legendary leaders, has a lot to teach us, even in today's fast-paced world. His life was a masterclass in leadership, strategy, and vision. Let's dive into some key lessons from his incredible journey. Plenty. First off, be adaptable. Alexander faced numerous challenges, from diverse enemies to unfamiliar terrains, yet he always found a way to adapt and overcome. Whether it was changing his battle tactics or forming alliances, his ability to pivot was crucial to his success. The world's changing faster than ever. In our modern era, adaptability is more important than ever. Businesses face rapid technological advancements, shifting market trends, and unexpected global events. Just like Alexander, we need to be ready to adjust our strategies and embrace new opportunities as they arise. You gotta be like Alexander, ready to adjust your strategy, rock a new outfit, whatever it takes to stay ahead of the game. This might mean learning new skills, adopting new technologies, or even changing your entire business model. The key is to stay flexible and open-minded. Second, never underestimate the power of a shared vision. Alexander's vision of a vast, unified empire inspired his troops to follow him through countless battles and hardships. His ability to communicate this vision and rally his men was a cornerstone of his leadership. Whether you're leading an army or a startup, people need to be inspired. A compelling vision can unite a team, drive them to achieve great things, and keep them motivated even when the going gets tough. It's about painting a picture of a better future and showing people how they can be a part of it. Give them something to believe in, and they'll move mountains for you. This means being clear about your goals, values, and the impact you want to make. When people feel connected to a larger purpose, they're more likely to go above and beyond in their efforts. Just, maybe not literally. Finally, be bold, take risks, challenge the status quo. Alexander's boldness and willingness to take risks set him apart from other leaders of his time. He wasn't afraid to venture into unknown territories or face formidable foes. You never know what you might achieve if you set your mind to it. In today's world, being bold means innovating, pushing boundaries, and not being afraid to fail. It's about taking calculated risks and learning from your mistakes. Bold leaders inspire others to think big and strive for greatness. After all, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, or something like that. Embrace the unknown, take that leap of faith, and who knows, you might just conquer your own worlds. Anyway, that's all from me. Go forth and conquer. Remember, the lessons from Alexander the Great are timeless. Adapt, inspire, and be bold. Your journey to greatness starts now.